Hey guys, welcome back. What? Is that something on my face? Not the best idea I've ever had. Good evening, and welcome to Storytime with Rob. We're going to talk about third shift. That's right, third shift. The shift everyone fears, the shift that everything happens on. I have worked a lot of third shift positions in my life so far. A lot of those being service station, gas stations, gas marts, service marts, whatever you want to call them. I guarantee you, if you want to see something crazy happen, all you have to do is get a third shift job at some service station in your local town or city and wait. It will happen. I promise you. What I'm going to share here with you are some of those stories that happen, all true, mind you. Truth has not been stretched in any way, shape, or form. I've got everything from explosions to cars catching on fires to animals coming in the store to people getting wrestled to the ground. Sewage. I will say I've never been robbed. Out of all the places that I've worked on second and third shift, I've never been robbed. No, I do not work those jobs anymore. I like the time that I spent in them because it gave me pretty good memories, and I met a lot of cool people. You meet a lot of cool people and a lot of crazy people. Which brings me to my first story, Crazy People. So what can I title this first story? So, my first story is titled The Diesel Incident. This takes place at a Shell station, actually, that is it's pretty much smack dab right in between Lexington, which is one of the major cities in Kentucky, and Richmond, which is one of the smaller towns in Kentucky, but is kind of well known. It has EKU, which is Eastern Kentucky University, is there, and along with the highest STD count. I don't really know that. I only lived there for a while. I didn't mess with any college stuff while I was there. Back to the story. This service station that I worked at, this Shell Mart, was right smack dab in the middle of both of those cities, right off of the interstate. You got a lot of travelers because it's right in between two places. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. You look like you're in the middle of nowhere, so you're going to stop there and say, I need to take a break because you're starting to get tired because you've been on the road so long, or yada yada. It wasn't a truck stop, but it had a lot of the amenities that truck drivers require and crave. It didn't have showers. It wasn't that. Huge diesel pumps and a lot of stuff outside for truck drivers, and then we had a lot of stuff inside. We also served food. It was a pretty nice little setup. So we're working, minding our own business, locals coming in and out. The diesel pumps at this gas station are over kind of to the right and almost behind the store. You can't see them out of any of the windows. They had a series of cameras set up so you could basically see everything that goes on outside of the store on the monitors. They weren't low quality. You could see detail just fine. Here comes this car pulling up. It's a normal car. It's not a diesel. It pulls up over to the diesel pump. I'm thinking, we're watching this on the camera. I'm thinking, what is this guy doing? That looks like a Buick. That's not I've never heard of a Buick that runs on diesel. I might be wrong, but I don't think I've ever heard of that. He gets out. He comes into the store. He's very friendly. He's like, hi, how you doing? I'm like, hey, pretty good. He grabs a couple of drinks out of the cooler and comes and he sits them on the counter and he starts talking about Jesus and God and all this stuff. Now, I'm a religious person. I was raised Baptist. I went to church a few times, but I can spot a crazy person. And when that crazy person starts talking, all it does is set in stone that, there is something off about this character. I say, you pulled up to the diesel pumps. You do realize that's diesel. That's not regular gasoline. That's diesel fuel. He's like, oh yeah. He said, I know. He said, well, I'm gonna go out and get some gas and I'll come right back in. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So he goes out, back off to his car. My coworker comes over and she's like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I'm gonna turn the pump on. She's like, are you really? I was like, yeah, he's not gonna make it very. I said, obviously he's not planning on paying for gasoline. And obviously there's something wrong with him if he takes a Buick to a diesel pump. So yeah, I'm gonna turn the pump on. Call the sheriff's department. Sure enough, he goes out there, lifts up the handle, puts the dispenser in his tank. I go, beep, approved. So we're sitting there watching this guy pump all this diesel fuel, probably about 12 gallons of diesel into his car. Naturally, I was like, he's gonna try to drive off. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, he's gonna try to drive off. I mean, you could just tell. So he gets in the car, he closes the door, cranks it up, he pulls away. He makes it probably 3 or 4 feet, just enough to turn to block 2 diesel pumps. Car dies. You can see him out there trying to start up. It's not gonna run. It's diesel fuel. It's not gonna run in a normal car. So I'm just like shaking my head. I'm like, oh, jeez. So he opens the door and he puts his feet out on the ground and he just sits there. He just sits in the driver's seat with his feet on the pavement with the door open, just sitting there, just like looking around, like nothing's wrong. Everything's just happy, hunky-dory. Everything's just normal. This is a normal night at like 3 o'clock in the morning for any guy. probably a minute. It felt a little longer. It was probably actually only about 60 seconds goes by. And I'm like, I got to go in there and talk to this guy. I got to see what's going on. I wander out there. I go up to him. I'm like, hi, how you doing? He's like, oh, hey, pretty good. I was like, you do know this is diesel. I said, I told you before, this is diesel gas. I don't think that car takes diesel. He's like, oh, no, it takes diesel. It'll start. It just takes a while. It'll start. I was like, you're gonna come in and pay for your fuel, right? You're gonna come inside and pay for it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll be in there in a minute. He's like, I'm just gonna sit here for a while, let this car do. I don't know. He didn't finish the sentence. I have no idea how he's gonna finish that sentence anyway. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll see you in a minute. So yeah, I wander back inside. We hang out there a while. The guy's still out in his car. I don't know how many minutes go by then because we just kind of wander off and start doing it. We're not even worried about this guy. We just wander off and do our own stuff, It's a normal routine of the night. Sometime later, we're back behind the counter again and we see the sheriff's cars pull up. About the same time, the guy is walking up and comes into the store. I'm like, oh, here we go. So the deputies come out. By this time, he started wandering around the store, talking to a couple of customers that were in there. The deputies come in. And it's a couple of the deputies that have come in there before. They were regulars. They hung out there a lot. They're actually extremely funny. Very nice guys. Really funny. It was like being in Super Troopers, the movie. I mean, because the sheriff's department was at war with the state police. They were always like playing pranks on each other. It's hilarious. Anyway, a sidetrack, different story. The deputies walk in. I just kind of point over to them and they're like, okay. So they walk over to him and they're like, hey, good evening, sir. And he's like, oh, hey, how you doing? He's like, did you get some fuel out here? And he's like, yeah, I got some fuel. He's like, did you pay for it? And the guy's like, yeah, I already paid for it. Deputy looked over at me and I was like, no, he didn't pay for it. He's like, well, let's step outside. We'll chat for a minute here and talk about some stuff. He's like, oh, okay. They trot back outside, kind of out of the way, and start talking. And eventually they worked their way back down to his car. This we're watching on the cameras. And my coworker is standing there. I'm like, I got to go out there. I got to find out what they're talking about. So I paw butt out the door and over there to him. They're trying to get information on him, but the guy's very evasive, very vague on what he's talking about. He's like, I've been here, I've been there, I'm just traveling. I was like, look, guys, I said, in about an hour, we're going to have quite a few trucks come through here, and they're going to want diesel, and this car's blocking 2 of the pumps. We've got to get it moved out of the way. He's like, it won't run. I'm like, no, it's a Buick, and you put diesel in it. It is not going to start. He just kind of laughed. He said, he put diesel in it? I was like, yeah, he put a full tank of diesel in it. He's like, oh, so he's like, sir, he said, would you mind getting in there? We're going to push it. Would you stop? Would you pull over there by the curb? And he's like, yeah, okay. So the guy gets in his car, puts it neutral. Me and the 2 deputies get behind it. We start pushing this car. Now, we're not running with it. It's like probably a very slow jog or a fast walk. It wasn't like a steep hill. It was just a very subtle incline, probably about 150, 200 feet down to the edge of the parking lot, which held a payphone and a tree behind the payphone. Okay, that's just the setup for disaster right there. That's just the setup for disaster. We start pushing this car, push it a few feet away from the pump, where it'll roll down the little incline on its own. So we just kind of step back. We're all 3 of us are standing there with our arms folded, watching this car roll away from us down the hill, headed directly for the payphone. Nobody says a word while this is starting, and we're just watching, waiting for this guy to hit the brakes. And the deputy to my left, he says, he's not going to stop, is he? And I just reply, nope. And about that time, wham, right into the payphone. He wasn't going very fast, so he didn't do a whole lot of damage. The look on the deputy's face when that car hit the payphone was priceless. I can't even do the expression. It was just like shock and awe. Imagine trying to experience every emotion simultaneously. I think that's what was going on in this guy's head. He's like, oh, I didn't see that. Me neither. I'm gonna call a tow truck. I think that's a good idea. So the car's out of the way. The trucks can now get in. So I'm like, you know what? I gotta get back inside. The deputy comes back into the store again. I'm like, okay, you got to tell me what is going on with this guy. We finally got a hold of somebody that knows him, and apparently he's from Northern Ohio. He is a mental patient who was kind of on house arrest under his parents' care. This is like a 40-year-old man. He's not a young man. So apparently he had escaped from his parents' house, stole his parents' car, and made it all the way down almost into Richmond, Kentucky. And you're thinking, how many other times did he do this? Because it's a Buick, it probably gets 18 miles to the gallon. But yeah, the poor payphone getting whacked. And oh man, that payphone really saw some stuff in its time. And in the short while that I worked at that service station, that payphone had been hit 4 times before that by trucks and cars. May it rest in peace. Pieces. So yeah, anyway, yeah, that's my story from third shift. One. I have many, many more. And I don't know when I'm going to be recording these stories because I've got a ton. Yeah, like I said, you work third shift enough, you have crazy stuff happen. So hopefully you enjoyed this little story and I told it well. If not, then I'm going to tell it again and make another tape.
Because that's the way I am. I ain't gonna stop till I get it right.
I don't know what that was. I'm truly embarrassed now. Anyway, I hope you all are having a fabulous week, and I wish you all the best, and thanks for watching. See ya. Okay, that didn't work. Ouch. Where's my coffee? I think my coffee's got cold. It's not cold, it's warm. It's at that point where it's not quite a frappuccino yet, but it's almost there. No, if it wasn't for coffee being hot and sweet, I would never drink it. Okay, I've talked myself out. This is ridiculous. I gotta go. I'll see you guys later.